This comment is asking about resource guarding of attention or affection. We might expand that to of people, and the potential intersection of jealousy as sort of a motivating factor to that behavior. So this comment was left on a video where we were talking about family-directed aggression. And so that would involve the dog resource guarding, showing aggressive behavior toward other human family members in the house. But this is also a really common occurrence in intra-household aggression, where we're seeing aggression between the pets. I do have a playlist on resource guarding, another one on intra-household aggression, and both of those I think talk a bit about this topic, but I wanted to make a specific video kind of digging into some of the nuances. So whether the aggression is against people in the home or other pets in the home, we may see a resource guarding behavior around specific family members or around affection or attention from those family members or from non-family members as well. And this can be a tricky thing to navigate, because just engaging with one of your pets could set off this aggressive behavior toward other people or pets in the home. All resource guarding cases, there's going to be a lot of nuance depending on the individual. They may only guard certain people or affection and attention from certain people, or it might be much more general. Exactly what that looks like and what sets it off might vary. This might be the person just exists in the space and isn't even engaging with the pet, and that still might set off some resource guarding behavior. Or it might be specifically affection and petting. It may be more likely to occur in certain spaces or when the person is more physically available, like sitting on the sofa, down on the ground, up on furniture, that type of thing. You might see it appear only in intersection with other types of guarding, so it may only happen in comfortable spaces. But you notice that the behavior is escalated and more intense when there's a person there. So you have like layers of resource guarding sort of stacking on top of each other. And so sometimes, certainly, we could attribute a sort of like jealousy, or sometimes we talk about like FOMO, fear of missing out, to these sorts of situations, especially when we're talking about guarding a person specifically. I always look at attachment. Quite often with my clients, what I see is that when they are guarding a person, a lot of times it is because their safety, their concept of security is wrapped up in being able to access that person. And so as we work to create more secure attachment, it resolves that issue without us actually having to directly address the resource guarding. So there's a lot of nuance around, what can seem to be the same behavior. This is why it's so hard to get guidance online or through reading educational materials, that sort of thing, on some of these topics, because you can get sort of a general overview, but it can be really nuanced. There can be a lot of detail involved in the individual case. So depending on sort of the motivation behind this behavior, there are a few different things we can do. Certainly if this is related to the dog only feeling safe when they can access their person and seeing other people or pets as sort of a barrier to that access, or a weakening of access to that resource, we can work on building secure attachment. Predictability is often very helpful in resource guarding cases. For example, a lot of times folks will be really surprised that their dog is guarding in one particular, they're guarding their chews, they're guarding their toys, whatever the case may be, but they don't guard around mealtime. And one of the reasons that I think we actually see that pretty commonly is that mealtime tends to be predictable. Even without trying, we tend to fall into our own routines. And so there's usually a level of predictability around who's getting what, where, when. And so there's not this stress of like potentially missing out. And so creating predictability around access to the human, around affection, attention, that kind of thing, can be really helpful, can kind of help everyone relax a little bit. And so that can look like having some predictability in people in their resting spots, right? So like when we cuddle on the couch, you're on this side and you're on this side, and we have like the human in between sort of dividing them up, and the affection is predictable and shared, and there would be steps, sometimes many steps, to lead up to being able to do that safely. You certainly might not be starting there, but just an example of some predictability that we can work in. We can also, when the situation calls for it, teach the pet that the other pet approaching, or the other person approaching, or getting affection or getting attention, is actually a good thing for them. So voluntary sharing games, counter conditioning games, that sort of thing can be really helpful and appropriate here. And of course, like with anything else, we're looking at the whole picture. So we're doing physical health checks. We're making sure everyone's getting enough sleep. We're managing triggers. We're ensuring enrichment needs are satiated, which includes social, mental, physical needs, include things like the ability to be independent, the ability to self-regulate, resilience to stress, agency. So we're checking in on all of these different things that impact how our dog is able to approach the world and handle stressors. It can definitely be daunting when you might be saying, how can I, as the trigger, help address this? But like anything else, it's all about breaking down criteria finely enough, and of course taking that holistic approach.